One of the times we are most prone to daydreaming is when we're in love. We imagine things like imaginary meetings, imaginary flirting. We play them out in our minds. And we're in control of these fantasies. After all, it's possible to put the scenario we want into play. To spark this fantasy, we don't need huge signals from the other person. If we're emotionally empty, even the tiniest signal can be reflected in our imagination and turn into a full-length love story. In our minds, someone in love is already ready to get carried away. Now, imagine a lover who daydreams almost as if it's a full-time job, spending absurd amounts of mental energy on fantasies, only to realize in the end that these dreams were empty. They see that the other person doesn't see them in the same way. All the hours and energy spent on these dreams hold no real substance, and the truth hits them like a slap in the face. What does this person do? Maybe they blame the other person, get angry at them, or maybe they accept that they were the one who started the fantasies in the first place, and take responsibility. These parts are uncertain, but one thing is certain in the end. This dreamer will recognize one fact: imagination is dangerous. It has its positive sides. Humans invent things and create works of art thanks to imagination. We first design in our minds, then turn it into reality. However, we shouldn't ignore the destructive impact imagination can have, especially when focused on human relationships. Once it confronts reality, Dostoevsky's White Nights is very different from his other works. It doesn't deal with difficult topics like the existence of God, the problem of evil, or death. It tells the story of a lovesick dreamer. Throughout this story, we sometimes feel pity, sometimes irritation, but there's a sense of familiarity. A dreamer exists inside all of us, though not as intensely as the main character. Interestingly, the protagonist also serves as the narrator. He has no specific name, so let's call our 26-year-old male character the dreamer. His greatest pleasure is walking through the gloomy streets of St. Petersburg. He is extremely lonely, with no one close to him, but he has a friend for bad days: his imagination. Whenever he grows bored of life, he turns to his imagination, conversing and interacting with imagined people, even falling in love with them in the dreamer's otherwise solitary life. We see a new chapter open when he meets a pleasant girl named Nastenka. During one of his beloved nighttime walks, he notices a young girl crying. He is mystically captivated by her, but he can't summon the courage to start a conversation. The girl slowly starts walking home. At that moment, a middle-aged, probably drunk man follows her. The dreamer immediately senses the drunk man is a threat and rushes to the girl, saying, "Take my arm." She immediately accepts, and together they escape the drunkard, though somewhat unwillingly. The dreamer takes the perfect opportunity to meet the girl. He accompanies Nastenka to her home, and a sweet conversation occurs along the way. Our character enjoys this chat so much that he asks Nastenka for a promise to meet again the next day. Nastenka agrees, and the dreamer easily realizes that she is affected by him. Nastenka prefers to say what she means from the start. The dreamer then says, "But look, there's one condition. First, do exactly what I ask. I'll be honest, I want you not to fall in love with me." "That's impossible." "Friends, I'm ready. Here, I'm reaching out my hand, but falling in love is impossible. Please." Even though Nastenka promises she won't fall in love, the dreamer knows deep down that she doesn't truly mean it. Finally, they reach the girl's home. As Nastenka enters her apartment, the dreamer heads toward his own home. From now on, Nastenka becomes the new heroine in the dreamer's imagination, and he begins eagerly anticipating their meeting the next day. The first night ends like this. To summarize, we have a dreamer madly in love with a girl, and a Nastenka who follows the philosophy, let's not fall in love, but let's stay friends. Now, let's move on to the second night. Again, the two meet, and it's clear there's chemistry between them, not necessarily romantic or sexual, but at least they clearly enjoy each other's conversation. This time, Nastenka says something interesting. Let's start from the beginning. She tells the dreamer, "Yesterday I behaved a bit childishly. Today, I want to get to know you better." With this statement, she gives the dreamer a glimmer of hope. After all, the girl who told him on the first night, "Don't fall in love with me," now says, let's start getting to know each other from the beginning. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the dreamer is now filled with hope for love. Following Nastenka's invitation to talk about herself, the dreamer begins to share his life. After finishing work and returning home, despite his tiredness, he realizes how his imagination, sparked by a small flame, has grown into something that feels almost real. His imagination is reawakened, coming to life again, revealing a new world, a dazzling new life, shining with its brightest possibilities, a new dream, new happiness, and a deliciously enticing, seductive poison. But that's not our real life. Yes, humans are prone to error, and Nastenka unconsciously believes that a true passion can excite her soul. In her vivid, useless daydreams, she convinces herself that something is happening. Inevitably, after the dreamer tells her this story, Nastenka cannot hold back her tears. Now it's Nastenka's turn to tell a story. Like the dreamer, she loves to daydream, though perhaps not as intensely. After losing her parents, she lives with her grandmother, who is blind. One day, according to her own account, Nastenka commits some sort of impropriety. The book doesn't tell us exactly what this was, but from that moment, her grandmother becomes extremely protective of her in their home, in the attic above the ceiling. There is an extra apartment. One day, a young man comes to rent this apartment. Since her grandmother cannot see, she doesn't know what he looks like. Nastenka asks if he is handsome. When she confirms that he is, her grandmother panics. Her grandmother, having lived a full life, immediately imagines the possibility that her granddaughter might fall for this handsome tenant. And as you can guess, this possibility indeed comes true. The tenant likes Nastenka. He constantly sends her books to read, and whenever they meet briefly in the corridor, they exchange short conversations. Eventually, the tenant even invites Nastenka to go to the theater. A romance begins to form between them. However, this love doesn't last very long. One day, the tenant comes to Nastenka with upsetting news. Because of his financial situation, he has to vacate the apartment and go to Moscow to earn money. This separation is not short. They will be apart for a full year. Nastenka is devastated, of course, and offers to run away with him. But all her efforts are in vain. He has firmly decided to leave. However, because he loves Nastenka, he makes her a promise. 1 year later, he will return to St. Petersburg, and if Nastenka still loves him, he will marry her. During that year, there is no news from the tenant. He neither appears before Nastenka nor sends her a letter. Let's go back to the first night, to the moment the dreamer first met Nastenka. She is crying, remember? A full year has passed, and she has received no reply from the one she loves. That's the story of Nastenka. The dreamer listens to this story with great interest after revealing all their feelings. The relationship between the two evolves beyond ordinary friendship. Inevitably, as readers, we begin to wonder, could Nastenka and the dreamer experience love together? They are like puzzle pieces that complement each other. To people who have gone through similar paths, we think their relationship might evolve from shared suffering into love. We also notice how similar the two characters are. The dreamer feels toward Nastenka what Nastenka feels toward the tenant. There's a kind of mirrored symmetry between them. Both are intensely romantic and dreamy. Both crave a passionate love. By the third night, the dreamer expresses perhaps the most striking thoughts in the book. He marvels at how joy and happiness can make a person so beautiful, how the heart melts with love, how one wants to pour one's entire heart into another. He wishes for everything to be cheerful, everything to smile. This joy is contagious. Yesterday, there was such tenderness in your words, such kindness in your heart toward me. You protected me, you embraced me, showed me closeness, encouraged me. Oh, the whims one does out of happiness. And I thought I was taking all of this in the best way, assuming it was truly for me. Oh God, how could I have thought this? How could I have been so blind, knowing it belonged to another? In the end, this kindness, this care, this love even, yes. This love for me was nothing more than the joy of knowing he would soon reunite with the other. And he wanted to share that happiness with me. From these striking words, we understand that the dreamer is far more intelligent than he appears. At first, He seems like a naive lover, but he is aware of what is happening. Even beneath the warm behavior toward him lies the excitement and longing to reunite with the tenant. On the third night, Nastenka wants to write a letter to her love, but her hand is not strong enough, so the dreamer helps her. He will also send the letter. Nastenka, at her limit, is giving her lover one last chance by the fourth night. Things spiral out of control. As soon as the dreamer meets Nastenka, he asks if there's been a reply to the letter. The dreamer hears no. Nastenka then declares she will no longer give a chance to the man she loves. She says she doesn't love him anymore, even hates him. At that moment, the dreamer seizes the opportunity and confesses his own love to Nastenka. He tells her he loves her as she loves the tenant. Nastenka is surprised or pretends to be. After all, she has known the dreamer loved her from the beginning, but she had acted as if she didn't then in a radical decision. Nastenka accepts the dreamer's love. She declares that their relationship can evolve from friendship into romance. The dreamer, upon hearing this, feels like the happiest person in the world. On the way, they talk about how they will marry Dot at that very moment. A figure emerges from the darkness. Yes, the figure we expect the tenant arrives. Though love for Nastenka has been delayed, it has finally come. Nastenka immediately breaks free from the dreamer's embrace and rushes to her true love. The dreamer describes the moment. Oh God, what a scream! How startled she was. How she tore herself from my arms and ran to him. I stood there, like dead, watching them. But as soon as she took his hand, she threw herself into his arms, then, suddenly, turned back toward me like the wind, like lightning right by my side. Before I could react, she wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me passionately. Then, without a word, she ran back to him, taking his hands and pulling him along. I stayed behind, watching them for a long time. Finally, they disappeared together. The last part of our book, unlike the rest, takes place in the morning. The dreamer wakes up and immediately sees that he has received a letter from Nastenka. In her letter, Nastenka first apologizes. She explains that, although their time together was brief, the dreamer made her believe they could experience love, giving her false hope. She also writes that she will be married in a week and wishes to see the dreamer at her wedding. At that moment, the dreamer realizes just how ugly real life can be. We understand why this character often retreats into his imagination, deep down. When deprived of his imagination, he reveals a melancholic, pessimistic spirit. The dreamer suddenly notices how gloomy everything around him is: the servant, the house, the streets. Reality doesn't just appear. It feels ugly. He thinks about his future 15 years from now, alone, growing old in this decaying room. Yet, the dreamer feels no anger toward Nastenka. This girl, during those 4 white nights, sparked his imagination and pulled him out of his gloomy world. For that reason, despite everything, the dreamer is grateful to Nastenka. White Nights is a short book, only about 90 pages, but when you finish it, you pause and reflect. Surely, those watching this video have, willingly or not, formed a connection with the dreamer. What is Dostoevsky trying to tell us here? First, the danger of imagination. The dreamer's dependency on daydreaming is largely influenced by his loneliness. If he had a few friends, he might never have dared to escape so fully into his imagination. Ultimately, as a completely solitary person, he judges and interprets events entirely through his own mind, and over time, his perception of reality begins to distort. His isolation sharpens his imagination even further. Another reason for his fantasies is his pessimistic outlook on real life. Remember the gloomy expressions he used on the morning following the second night? The dreamer is not a life-filled, cheerful person. Deep down, he is extremely depressed. Even when he appears lively next to Nastenka, we can see only darkness in his soul. During the day, the dreamer experiences a world of sadness, rain, and darkness. Thoughts crowd his mind, strange and dark feelings overwhelm him. He lacks both the power and the desire to resolve them. Solving all this is not his burden to bear. In a sense, I see the dreamer as a kind of drug addict. He derives insane pleasure from daydreaming. Yet when confronted with reality, he suffers immensely. His only escape from this suffering is to dream even more. So, why isn't the dreamer angry at Nastenka, even though she ultimately leaves him? Because he was so content with those four turbulent nights. He adored the theatrical spark she brought into his life. Despite the unhappy ending, he is grateful for the excitement and joy she gave him. On the last night, before the tenant appears, the dreamer and Nastenka even dream about marriage together. The dreamer treasures that short, magical moment so much that it makes all the heartbreak worthwhile. Would he bear resentment or shadow her pure, bright happiness with bitter complaints? Could he wither even one of the delicate flowers she decorates her black hair with on her wedding day? No, never. He wishes only for the skies to always be clear for her lovely smile and radiant joy never to fade. Because of the happiness she created, he will always remember Nastenka fondly. If one day Nastenka were to return and say, "Let's start again, let's close all old chapters," the dreamer would still accept. It would be as if nothing had changed. And he would think Nastenka doesn't actually leave him at the last moment she runs full speed toward the dreamer. Yet, despite all the internal contradictions, it's important to note that the dreamer is not a fool. He may be inconsistent, but he is certainly not stupid. From the very beginning, Nastenka knew she did not love him. By the end of the day, the dreamer simply enjoyed chasing the excitement of magical moments. His inconsistency is balanced by his depth and awareness, which prevents us from underestimating him. Interestingly, while reading, we sense that perhaps neither Nastenka nor the dreamer will truly experience their idealized love. Dostoevsky elegantly signals that the tenant might ultimately return to Nastenka. But the story still touches the dreamer in us, making us wonder, will his dreams ever come true? Will he finally escape his broken life to experience the passionate love he imagines? The dreamer comes so close to his dream, only to have it snatched away at the last moment. Yet, unlike amateur dreamers, we remind ourselves that Dostoevsky wrote this story. He does not allow the dreamer to fully escape into fantasy. After this experience, the dreamer is likely unchanged, still melancholy, still seeing himself as alone. The one thing keeping him alive is his imagination. He knows he's playing a risky game, while he enjoys his fantasies immensely. The danger of heartbreak always looms nearby, as it does for Nastenka. He loves his dream so much that no loss can stop him from playing. Clinging to the excitement it brings, the book's title, White Nights, is fitting. During the white nights, darkness never fully descends. In St. Petersburg, especially in summer, the nights never completely darken. Similarly, the dreamer decorates his nights with luminous, enchanting fantasies as a refuge from the gloom of life. For him, nighttime is magical and bright, while mornings are harsh, filled with work, obligations, and crowds. The dreamer is trapped in the daily cycle of life. Every fantasy is followed by disappointment, and every white night is followed by dark mornings.